Hello, everybody. This is Christy Whitman with the Quantum Success Show, where you can get your information and inspiration to create your desires. And I am super excited because today I am bringing you a psychic. So Laura is a celebrity psychic who has been featured on Buzzfeed, NBC, ABC, CBS, Fox, and on and on and on. Laura Powers is a clairvoyant, psychic medium, writer, actress, producer, and who receives guidance and communication with loved ones that have passed on from the other side. So Laura travels nationally and internationally for clients, events, television appearances, and speaking engagements. Ever since she was a child, Laura has seen ghosts and spirits, and she's learned how to manage those experiences and now uses her experience communicating with angels, spirits, and other energy beings to help her clients better understand and change their lives. She is also the author of 7 books on the psychic realm and hosts and produces a popular podcast, Healing Powers Podcast, which, if you saw the interview that I did with Mark Gober, it was on his book, How to Flip Upside Down Thinking. I can't remember the exact title.
And End to Upside Down Thinking.
There you go. Perfect. So Mark was talking about how he was deciding to listen to different podcasts, and it was actually Laura. And so I want to find out even how that conversation started. But when I heard that Laura wanted to come on my show, and Mark was the one that talked about Laura from her show, I was like, yes, I want to have her on. So welcome, Laura.
Thanks so much for having me. Yeah, it's lovely to be here, and I'm a big fan of Mark's work as well, so it's fun to connect with you in that way.
Awesome. So how did it come about with you and Mark, and for you to connect with me to be on the Quantum Success Show?
Yeah, so many years ago, I've been podcasting for a long time, and I've been on other people's podcasts for a long time. And so several years ago, Mark heard me on another podcast, and then he listened to my podcasts. And after listening to all of them, which I don't know about you, but I hear this from people all the time, they discover my podcast and then they listen to every single podcast that I've ever released. I've been podcasting for 8 years, so that's quite a few.
Right. What do they call that? What do they call that when you do a Netflix binge? Okay. So they binge it.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. And so he listened to all of them, and then he booked a session with me. And in the session, I essentially said to him, you're going to write a book about this stuff, and eventually that's going to be your work. And, that's a part of your life purpose. And I think at the time, I don't know that he really felt that was the case, which I've learned never to, take it on how people take whatever it is that I'm getting. But, I just shared whatever it is that I got. And the interesting thing is that a year later, he wrote the book, and a year later he released it, and it immediately became a bestseller. And as you've seen by having him on your show, he's been doing a ton of media. He has, I think 60K fans on Facebook, and, it's just really exploded for him. So it's just really incredible. I'm so happy he's doing that also, because as a psychic, I don't really go into the scientific realm. I mean, I believe in science and I'm an advocate of it, but it's just not my thing to go into the nitty-gritty of the science of it. And so I'm very glad that he's doing that, because I think for a lot of people, it really helps them understand what's happening and access it and relate to it in a different way. And some people need that information. So yeah, I know that he does reference me and my work in a lot of his interviews. And so if there's a show where I feel like it's a fit that he's been on, I'll sometimes follow up and see if they might be interested in having me. So that's how this connection happened.
Well, welcome. I'm so grateful that you're here, and I'm glad to have this conversation with you, because you're in the perfect place, because here we talk about manifesting and the universal laws. And so today we're going to be talking about angels and manifesting. So how did you start your work as a psychic?
So first of all, I went into it kind of kicking and screaming.
I get that.
That does happen to some people. So ever since I was little, I've seen and sensed ghosts, and a lot of the stuff that showed up for me was kind of dark and intense, growing up even as a kid. And as I've learned more about the sort of psychic spiritual realm, I think there's a reason for that. First of all, I was born into trauma, into an abusive situation. And so I've found that a lot of people that have a lot of psychic abilities have that in common, to be honest, where there's some kind of traumatic situation that happens, whether it's a near-death experience or just, having a traumatic life experience as a whole. So I came into that, and obviously there's a lot of intense energy related to that. And I now know through my work that our minds, our lives, and our energy fields are very much like a garden. Like, imagine you just get a plot of land, and what automatically shows up are weeds, right? It's weedy, and you have to pull out the weeds, and you have to plant whatever the heck it is that you want in there. So whether those are flowers or fruits and vegetables or whatever. So essentially, because I didn't know to do that, I just had a very weedy garden for a long time. And because I'm clairvoyant and psychic, a lot of what showed up was interacting with me in that way. So if you have psychic abilities, you might attract more dark stuff than others, because there are what I call entities that feed on and create fear, negativity, anger. I think of them as like energy parasites. So very much like you could have parasites in your body that feed on your energy and your food, you can have energy parasites that feed on whatever it is that you're releasing. A lot of these entities feed on some kind of negative stuff. And if you're a psychic or you're empathic, you are more easy to trigger, right? Because they would just show up, and I would see them, and then, oh my gosh, that looks scary, and then I'd be afraid. And so because of the whole kind of garden thing, where you have to plant the good stuff and clear out the bad stuff, and then also being a psychic, I ended up having a lot of dark stuff show first before I knew how to clear out the dark stuff and bring in the light beings like angels. And so I basically grew up just trying to ignore it because I didn't know how to handle it. And also I feared that I was crazy because other people didn't see and sense what I did. And it took many, many years, into adulthood before I was, faced what I experienced and understood that no, I wasn't crazy, and then learned the tools to manage it. And then once I did, it was like completely life-changing. And so now I'm very passionate about helping people understand this stuff and also connect with their own intuition and ability to connect with angels and these other beings, because it's like making your life so much easier once you learn how to do that. Imagine like trying to do everything by yourself, and then instead you have this whole team of amazing, helpers that can assist you with whatever it is that you're trying to create. So that's what I do now. And I have a completely different life. I travel full time because I like to. I travel internationally. I meet with a lot of amazing people, do media, and it's pretty magical. And I know that it's just the beginning in so many ways, and I want people to know what's possible for them as well. It's not like I'm special in this way. Like even though I do have, strong psychic abilities, a lot of people actually have abilities that they've never tapped into. So that's the other thing I want to, just because you don't think of yourself as having abilities or gifts doesn't mean that you don't have them.
Awesome. Well, I don't know if you're aware of this, but I channel, and I like do full on channeling, and I channel the Council
Amazing.
of Light. Yeah, it is. I'm
Great.
so blessed. It happened a year ago. I mean, I've been healing and hearing them and all that for a long time, but they just like full on came through. And so they've been sharing with me lately that there's 22 angels that represent different archetypes of life. And so I would love to hear your perspective on why angels are an important part of manifesting.
Yeah, so I think angels are kind of specifically built to help us, and that's their life path and purpose. Usually involves helping humanity, or in some cases other beings. Animals are obviously a part of this as well, and they are really good at it. And that's kind of what they're here to do. So I know when I'm especially working with people in the beginning, a lot of times they're hesitant to ask angels for help, and I think women in particular, but also in our society, we're very much taught like almost like it's bad to ask for help, or try to be self-sufficient or something. But the angels want to do that, and that's what they're here to do. And there's another angel channeler who gave this idea of unemployed angels, and I thought that was really lovely. I think her name is Lorna Byrne. But yes, that imagine like if you're out of work, you want to work. It's not like anyone's doing you a favor by not giving you work. You want to do it, right? And so I think it's the same thing with angels. They are here to help us, but they do need our permission. And when we don't ask them, they will try to guide us and give us assistance in that way. But it really opens the door for them to enter into our lives and really do that work with us when we ask them for help and give them permission to do so.
Yeah, I always say like they, like our team on the other side of the veil, they have their own universal laws that they'd have to adhere to too. So they can't just
Yeah.
impose themselves. We have to ask. And when we ask, they are there to completely help us. But unless we ask, they can't just, start doing things for us. So it's just
Yeah.
so comforting to know that we have such a team on the other side that's wanting to help us. But we have to, we have to ask. So what would you say to someone that has been like, I've been asking and the situation financially hasn't happened, or my business hasn't taken off, or I haven't found the right person, and I'm asking and no help is coming. What do you typically coach people on when they feel like, oh my God, I feel like I'm doing everything. I feel like I'm doing the outer work. I'm doing the inner work. What more could I do?
Well, I think there's two things that come up. One is that sometimes when we're asking for something, there may be something else in our life that we are being guided to shift or release in order to allow for that to happen, or a certain step we're being guided to take to help bring that in. And sometimes people are resistant to that, or they're just not getting that message. So in my case, I was guided to get into the psychic work well before I did. And like I said, I kind of went into it kicking and screaming in the beginning of this interview. But I got the message very strongly while I was already tuned in and receiving strong psychic messages for at least a year before to start doing it. And it was not something I thought I wanted to do. My master's degree is in political science. I worked in the president's office of a university. This was like not how I thought of myself, not what I thought was a good idea. And so I just really resisted it. And then once I started doing it, it was like, oh my gosh, so much of my pain and struggle and the challenges that I had were as a result of me fighting the guidance. So I think that happens a lot where people are asking for something and they're getting other guidance or messages that maybe they're not even consciously aware of. And they're not making those changes that are going to help bring those very things that they want to come into being, into play. So that's one thing. And then the other thing is patience. I think it can take a little bit of time for energies to shift, and the physical matter is the heaviest vibration of everything, and it can take time for that to move. And so whatever you created in your life now is a manifestation of all your past energy. And imagine how long it takes a child to be born or whatever. I mean, some of these things take time. And so I find that it's a combination of making sure that you're listening to all the guidance that you're receiving, releasing whatever it is that you're being guided to release, and then just having patience and faith.
Beautiful. Thank you for that.
Sure.
So I know there's boundaries, obviously, in manifesting. So how do we get tested for our manifestations and work with boundaries?
Oh, that is such a good question. I'm so glad you're bringing it up. This is huge because when we set our intention and we ask for something, a lot of times, we will get tested. We'll get sent something that's like almost what we want. And if we settle, then we're basically sending the message to the universe, like, that's okay. That's all I need. And so you see this a lot, for example, with romantic relationships or partners where, someone will come in and it's like, maybe 3/4 of what someone wants, or they have like these really awesome things, but then these other like traits that are, really less than desirable. But if you accept that into your life, then you are basically pushing away, the full package. And so I think it can be really hard when you don't have that full package of whatever it is that you're looking for, to wait and to be patient, but we are rewarded with patience. So it's about checking in. Is this really the full thing? And having that faith and belief and patience to wait out for the full thing.
So I always like to say, I celebrate the closeness of the match, like that, that's like really celebrating how this person is a lot like that, but this is a deal breaker. And then there's the other side of the balance of that too, is like, there's nobody's that's perfect, right? So it's like,
Sure.
you could have someone that's got all these great qualities and yet has something that you don't like or get into a relationship with. And for example, my husband, I mean, we've been together 13 years and love that man. He's got so many amazing qualities, but I've got my issues. He's got his issues. We've learned how to work around those kind of things, but he's not like perfect and neither am I. Right. So, are you saying like kind of totally dismiss it if the person's not perfect, or is it more of just like, that's a deal breaker and I'm not willing to play with that deal breaker quality or characteristic?
Right. Of course. I mean, no one's perfect. And that's the nature of us with our spirituality and incarnation is we're always going to partner with people that create some learning process for us. Right. So it's not to say like, oh, I need the perfect person because, again, we're not perfect either in that sense, or we're completely perfect depending how you look at it.
Right. That's true. That's true.
But I think there are things that people are constantly settling for that really they shouldn't be settling for. So, toxic behavior, not being appreciated. So yeah, if you're struggling to manifest, then a lot of times there's something in your life that you're accepting that is keeping you from that manifestation. So there are several examples of this in my life. So I was guided to stop drinking alcohol for a while, and I did like reduce it, and I was drinking the top shelf, like best quality alcohol I could, gluten-free and all of that, with no sugar added in my drinks. And then when I finally just completely released it, like a bunch of things happened that I've been trying to manifest for a while. And when you look at it from an energy perspective, anything that kind of brings your energy or vibration down is going to limit what you can manifest. And so that was there. And then I had another point, this was about a year and a half ago, where I was just really struggling, not feeling like I was bringing in some things that I wanted to bring in. And I was connected with someone on my podcast who is a doctor that has a line of supplements for parasites. And essentially, I learned I had a lot of parasites, and in clearing all those beings that were feeding on my, energy and spiritual energy as well, then I was able to start to manifest better because this is something that I learned in the last couple of years, that our lives, our energy fields are very much like a Netflix queue. Whatever you say yes to, the universe sends you more of. So for example, if you have physical parasites, you'll probably also be sent parasitic people. It's like any circumstance or situation where your energy is being taken and you're not receiving as a result of that. So yeah, I think it's important to look at the bigger picture. Of course, not to expect people to be perfect, but if there's something that's a deal breaker, like maybe you really don't like smoking and someone's a smoker and you're like, everything else is great, but you're like, oh man, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
Stand strong for that.
Absolutely. I could just keep asking you questions all day, but I know that we have short, limited time. So if you want to learn more about Laura, you're giving everybody a gift, and we're actually going to put a link underneath this interview. So please tell us what the gift is, and we'll just link it underneath the video.
Yeah, so this is grounding and meditation audio. So it's learning how to essentially clear out all of that stuff in your energy field that's not yours, or even that's yours but it's old and you're ready to release it. And I think this is really crucial for manifesting in particular, because if you're carrying around all this old energy or other people's energy, it's hard for you to bring in what's fresh and new. And I think we're very much taught to clear our physical selves, like we know to take a shower and brush our teeth and wash our face and everything, but most people are not kind of taking care of that energetic, spiritual, emotional side very much, if at all. And it's so important in terms of manifesting and quality of life.
That is so funny you said that, because that's what I say. I'm like, we take showers every day, but we have to we have to clean our energy field every day as well. We can't just ignore that part, because everything's energy. So that's so funny. Yeah. I've never heard anybody else say that. So funny you said that. That's funny.
Well, I think if you channel, you just get those messages. But yeah, it's super important. And I think in some ways it's even more important than the physical, because everything starts with the energy. And if you align your energy, then the physical just kind of has to start to align with that.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for being here. And like I said, we're going to give everybody your gift to clear your energy underneath the video. Just click the link and you'll learn more about Laura Powers, and you can listen to her podcast. And Laura, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, it was such a pleasure to talk with you.
Thank you. And to all of you, let us know what you're taking away. What intrigued you about this conversation? What are you wanting to learn more about? And we'll continue the conversation here. Thank you so much for being in my community, and I appreciate you. And I hope you have an amazing Monday and an amazing week. Thanks, everybody. Thank you for watching. Let me know what you thought. Leave me a comment below, and be sure to share and tag your friends. And be sure to check out my other videos here and on this site.